Welcome back, my friends, to TFT Hyperroll with Artark. This is going to be a big video with lots of chapters, so I will put that all in the description so you can jump around as you see fit. Now here's the deal. As I make this video, I do not know exactly what Hyperroll will look like in set 10 because we haven't seen it yet. One big difference in set 10 is that you can actually go up to level 10 regularly without an augment in norms. Hyperroll usually follows that the highest level achievable in norms is the top level in Hyperroll. That used to be 9. So I always built my Hyperroll teams and my concepts around teams of 9. I don't know if they're going to use 9 or 10 for Hyperroll and won't know for sure. So I have various builds built around 9 and 10. The 9s will work obviously with a flex champion, but I built them out in my head for teams of 9. Overall, I found this set to be surprisingly easy for climbing purposes. This is my last set of games that I did before making this video, just so I could confirm that these builds were fairly solid. And at the end of this video, I have something to say about the last video I posted. If you want to see that, stay till the end or use the chapters down below. But let's get into it. Pentakill feels to me to be one of the strongest traits in the game, one that you can place with fairly consistently. It's going to ultimately base itself around Karthus and Karthus getting kills. I like Spear of Sojin, and then damage amplifiers like Rabadon's Death Cap and Archangel Staff for him to make him really strong. The reality with Pentakill, however, is that it doesn't get strong until the end of the game, so you need something to carry you into late game. I found Bruisers to be very effective for this. Olaf is a Bruiser Pentakill, might be a good pickup as an early headliner, but he's going to fall off, so you're going to have to dump him out for a different headliner. But you can flip other Bruisers in and out of the game as you find them. It'll give your team some extra beef and allow you to hold on until late game when Pentakill really becomes powerful. There is also a somewhat natural synergy with Pentakill Mosher, and that is because Gnar is both a Pentakill and Mosher, and Yorick is both a Pentakill and Mosher. So putting Pentakill and Mosher together will work. The only issue is you are then relying on Yorick to come in at the end and be a force in your build. Now here's where the how many levels are there in Hyperroll is going to become a big question. If you can pull it off, if it's 10 in Hyperroll, you can get to 7 Pentakill and 6 Moshers pretty easily since they are available in the game. And that combination will be very, very strong. But believe it or not, you're still likely relying on Karthus to do most of your damage, so everything is meant to essentially protect him and then allow him to crush things. For headliners in this comp, go Pentakill. You want to get the extra Pentakill so you can build out the Moshers. Again, this will depend on whether Hyperroll stops at 9 or 10. If it stops at 10, you can do the 7-6. If not, then you'll just have to have an additional flex and 5 Moshers or bring in something extra that will help you move forward. And last but certainly not least with Pentakill, there is Pentakill and Edgelord. You have 2 crossovers here and they're both pretty strong. Kale, who is a 2 cost, and then Viego, who is a 4 cost and with the right items can be absolutely game changing. This could work in either teams of 9 or 10. With 10, you can get to 7 Pentakill and 5 Edgelords pretty easily with 2 Moshers included. And even if Hyperroll goes to 9, you can get there as well because you could then end up using your headliner to pick up the additional Pentakill or the additional Edgelord. In this case, I happen to get a 8-bit Riven, so I used her just to create the additional 8-bit, and it worked out pretty well. Overall with Pentakill, and I'll say this for everything, don't try to force it. Only go for it if you get an early headliner that has Pentakill, and then be ready to shift out or 3-star them. I would avoid, however, the 3-star Olaf. That really seems to fall off hard at the end. you're better off with a backliner or something that is a little stronger. You could probably get away with Gnar or with Mordekaiser, certainly with Yorick, and of course Karthus. Any of those will work quite well as a headliner and will help you get Pentakill into the end. Now let's step away from Pentakill for a moment. It will be back in its own way, but over to another thing that if I see it early on, I'm going to grab it and then build around it, and that is Jinx with Rapidfire. Now this is also mainly using the Punk trait. And here's the thing with the Punk trait. It's really easy to get all 4 of your champs early. It's 2 1 costs, Jinx and Vi, 2 2 costs, Twitch and Pantheon. And the way Punk works is every time you roll, your punks are going to get a little bit stronger. In norms, your first roll is reduced to 1 cost. Don't know if that will be the same in hyperroll, but because you do a lot of rolling in hyperroll, you should be able to build your punks up pretty strong towards the end. Rapidfire works really well as an additional trait, simply because if you get Jinx with the Rapidfire, you'll be able to get 6 Rapidfire. Now in norms, this has been a fast start build. As you can see, we're at 3-2 here, haven't suffered a loss yet. I expect this to be the same in hyperroll, in that it will be a very fast start build and you won't likely lose early. The problem with this specific build, the Punk Rapidfire, comes towards the end, and again will depend somewhat on whether it's 9, 10, or how they're doing hyperroll. But it's because your front line ends up being made up of Vi a 1 cost, Pantheon a 2 cost, and then whoever else you can fit in, but you're going to need 5 Rapidfires in the back line, so you don't have that much room in the front line to put really tanky champions. And as you will see, the power of this comp continues into mid-game. Here we are towards the end of 4-6. We had 1 loss for 5 total health, but we're still holding on. The backline becomes very strong. Caitlyn, if you can get her, is going to be your secondary carry. You want to load her up with a lot of damage items so that her ult is really strong. But you can see that this comp can easily get you into the top 4, fairly uncontested in that manner. Expect to start taking your losses in the end game. Again, it's because of the front line. I had to stop at 9 here in order to just go forward. Heading into this last run, I knew I was done for because the opposing player had a gold 3-star Karthus, and we all know what that's going to do. So even though I've picked up my 6 Rapidfire and they can do a lot of damage, yeah, Karthus was going to completely wipe the team, leaving them in first place and a GG all around. Another route you can go with Punk is Punk Executioner. Here you're going to focus on Twitch and Samira as your carries. They're both going to be very heavily AD based. Preferably, you're going to get an Executioner as your headliner so you can go to 6. You'll face some of the same problems with the other Punk build in that it's going to get weak at the end, but it will easily carry you into the top 4, and in this case, it was top 2. And this will make a nice transition into the next vertical I want to cover, which is Country. Now, Country does work really well with Punk. Even though there are no specific crossovers, what it does do is help shore up the front line so that your Punk champions will have a little bit more power and ability to win later in the game. However, once I'm focusing on Country, I like to make use of Urgot. He is incredibly strong in this build, very tanky and just able to level teams that you wouldn't expect him to be able to get through. Here we're using Urgot and Samira as our main damage, and while you'd think Twitch would have a huge advantage with that Trinity Force, Twitch is a distant third to Urgot and Samira on the damage charts. And when you combine these two, yes, you're into the top 4. One nice thing, if you combine Country and Punk, you're also going to bring along Executioner and Guardian. By definition, you can build more into that Guardian to really shore up the front line, which is the weakness when you just go with Punk Rapidfire or Punk Executioner. But this will also depend on the size of the team. Here I got a lucky egg, so I ended up with 2 Tactician's Crowns, and so I was able to go to 10 players, and that was a perfect combination for securing this win. If hyperroll goes to 10, then definitely look for Punk Country as a way to go. But Country Punk isn't the only way to go. There's another great synergy that you can use that really features Urgot very strongly, and that is Country Mosher, because Urgot is both Country and Mosher. I'm not quite sure how that goes together, but yeah, this is the world we live in now. But Urgot, I found great items. Titan's Resolve, Bloodthirster, then pretty much any damage enhancement after that. You can use this starting with a country headliner like Tom Kench or Katarina, or if you start with a Mosher and then switch over to a country when you get the option. In this case, I ended up with a country Samira. Your goal is to get to 5 country, at least 4 Moshers. Again, if you end up being able to go to 10, you can change that just a little bit. Also, if you can get an augment, you might be able to get to the 7 country. I haven't seen that yet. One of the other nice things in this build is that remember 2 of your Moshers, Gnar and Yorick, are also Pentakill. So you will be able to likely bring in a Karthus towards the end to help you clean up when necessary. It's nice to have that just additional trait come in. The Hecarim will hold things back, which give your Samira and Karthus and Urgot plenty of time to do the damage they need to bring you comfortably into the top 4. There are a few more builds I want to go over that are a little more situational. For example, if you get Superfan Gnar, I love going Superfan KDA with Gnar as my carry. As part of Superfan, he's going to get an additional item for just being the headliner, then Titan's Resolve, Bloodthirster, and he will clean house. They've nerfed him a little bit since the video I posted last week, but he's still pretty effective. And even though I had success with this in Norms, I think this build is going to be better suited for hyperroll because it really shines when you get to stage 9. That's when you can have the 7 KDA and 5 Superfans, because you're ultimately going to need Ahri to win, but without it, you can still make it to the top 4 more often than not. Now, there are a few builds I want to go over that I consider essentially champ or chump builds. It's a risk you take early on in the game, and if it works brilliantly. If it doesn't, you're probably going out 8. The first one is True Damage or Edgelord Yasuo that you are going to need to get to 3 stars if you are even going to stand a chance. Item-wise, Bloodthirster is absolutely essential. I also like to put Last Whisperer on. Some people go for Titan's Resolve, but I find just stacking the damage with an additional Infinity Edge works really well because you're essentially going to live or die. He is going to pick up damage in hyperroll. It's going to be 2% per kill, so his damage can get really extreme by the end of the game if you've gotten him to 3 stars and built the team around him. By the end of the match, you are really hoping for something like this, where you have 6 true damage and 5 edgelords. That's going to give you a lot of attack speed and a lot of additional damage. You're looking to fill out your team with Kiana, who is the true damage legendary, and Kayn, who is the edgelord legendary. With them on your team, you should be able to win, but it really is risky. The next champ or chump build is Spellweaver Annie. I don't necessarily like picking her up when it's emo as the ultimate trait, just because you can get to the 4 emo that you need without Annie, but it's a lot easier with Spellweaver as her headliner to get to the 7 Spellweavers. That's going to give you the additional power you need towards the end of the match. Key item for Annie is blue buff, then power, Rabadon's Death Cap, Archangel's Staff, Jeweled Gauntlet, anything to make you more powerful. You are going to want to sit her next to Lulu because Lulu will be giving mana buffs throughout the match, and that will help her as well. Your goal here is to get to the 7 Spellweavers and 4 Emos, because the 2 frontline Emos, Poppy and Amumu, will be able to hold things up long enough for your backline to do the damage it needs to win. This again is a build that I think will be more conducive to hyperroll because you're gonna go to 9. In this particular match, I was forced to stop at 8 to roll to get what I needed to just stay alive with the hopes of getting into the top 4. As you can see, I'm clinging to 1 health, but it's just strong enough to take this person out, which allowed me, yes, to creep into the top 4, even though I never got to the 7 Spellweavers. Finally, no champ or chump discussion would be complete without the econ trait of the season, which is Heartsteel. This works, in my opinion, much better than some of the econ traits of the past, as it doesn't absolutely require you to have a lose streak, as you do gain points from getting takedowns. So you can get additional points for winning, but it does help when you lose. I found this particular combination to be very effective, at least in norms, and that's the Heartsteel, Sentinel, Big Shot, and Rapidfire. You're going to be using your Heartsteel and your Sentinels as your front line, then Aphelios as one of your main carries, which is a Rapidfire, bringing in Lucian, and then Ezreal, who is a Heartsteel and Big Shot, and Jhin as your final Big Shot to help carry you forward. Again, it's champ or chump. If you lose too much, you're out. If you win too much, you're not going to get the gear that you need, but if it works out, you're in the top 4. Now, before I get to the last item on my to-do list today, which is to talk about the video from 3 days ago, I want to remind you again, I don't know what hyperroll will look like. I don't know if it's going to 9 or 10. I don't know what they're doing. I have no insight. So what is in this video is my best guesses of builds that will be the most viable based on what I've seen in norms and what I am expecting hyperroll to be. If it's really cool, I might go live on Saturday. Please let me know in the comments if that's something you want to see. But now let's talk about the video from the other day. So I put up this video the other day and I thought a few things. Number one, I thought it would only reach really subscribers of the channel who knew me and my sense of humor and whatnot. 2, even if it didn't, I thought the Rito please and the all caps everything wrong with TFT set 10 made it pretty clear not to take it too seriously and that there was a lot of sarcasm laced in it. And while I brought up, and I can't even use the word concerns because that's much too big of a word for this, I brought up things that I have mentioned before, such as the silliness of AP Yasuo in the Laser Core set and things like that. And I happen to mention that Tank Lilia and Tank Nico seemed silly to me since that was the antithesis of what they were. Anyway, yeah, people took this video really, really seriously. I ended up deleting a bunch of comments that went too far, and even YouTube had hidden a whole bunch of comments where people, yeah, they just unleashed. I don't know why they'd unleash on something like this, but yeah, I guess they felt I was attacking the game. Now, I don't claim to be a huge channel. I'm not. I have a fairly consistent viewership and get fairly consistent numbers. Usually my likes range between sometimes 100% because no one comes in and hits dislike, down to 90%. It's usually in that range and was that range pretty much since I started the channel. But wow, the contrast between these videos and this, that was a little mind-boggling. And it was mind-boggling because when I actually posted a video bashing on set 9 and all the problems I had with it, most people seemed to understand, or even if they didn't, say I understand how you feel that way, and good luck. Hope you come back for the next set, etc., etc. But yipes, bring up that Lilia doesn't make sense as a tank. They go nuts on you. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, and I'm seriously considering making more sarcastic content like the Rito Please thing here, because it was endlessly entertaining to see people come in and try and explain how wrong I was to have my own opinions. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, have an absolutely awesome day.